Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here early. We still got a couple of minutes, so make yourselves comfortable, grab a drink. Any final adjustments, we'll be starting in about 2 minutes. But before we get started, here's an opportunity just for us to get to know each other. If you can, please drop a message into the chat, where in the world that you are and what your name is, just so we can get to know each other a little bit better. I'll get us started. I'm Neil and I'm from London. It's nice to see we've got a good cross section of people from around the country. We normally do get a few people from much further afield. I think last time we had people from South Africa and the US and Mexico. So wherever in the world that you're from, you are most welcome. We'll be starting in just under a minute. There we go, Gina. You win the award so far for being the person from furthest afield. Welcome all the way from the Philippines. You are most welcome. Can you all see me okay? No. Ah. Okay. Oh. And now? Hopefully you can see me now.
We can see you, Neil.
Fantastic. So how many of you know what unconditional positive regard is? Maybe you attended a previous session, or from your own research, you've come across this idea, this notion of unconditional positive regard. Ah, okay. Not really. Great. Fantastic. How many of you are interested in learning what unconditional positive regard is and how we can use it in challenging situations? Hopefully some of you. That's why you showed up. And how many of you have not heard of unconditional positive regard and actually might be in the wrong presentation? It's okay if that's the case. We're still grateful that you're here. Well, firstly, thank you so much for investing your most valuable resource to be here today, which is your time. It's the one resource that you cannot replace when it's gone. And you know what you're investing over the next hour. I am here with my colleague Leah. Give us a wave, Leah. We're firmly committed to ensuring you get maximum value from this time that you've invested, but we are going to need your help with that. And essentially, we're going to be going through kind of a bit of a background as to what unconditional positive regard is as part of our Stress Awareness Month activities, as well as also giving you some practical guidance on how you can apply it in your day-to-day lives. This session is being recorded, and that's for the benefit of those that aren't able to attend live. If there is anything shared here of a personal nature or that is of a very sensitive nature, that will be edited out before we share the recording. So I really want this to be a safe space where we can express ourselves. So as I said, like if there is something that you do share of a personal nature, that we will be sure to edit that out. Who are we, for those of you that don't know? So firstly, how many of you have never attended one of our sessions before? How many of you are one of our sessions for the very first time? Okay, couple of you, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here. So we are the Stress Management Society. We've been around now for 22 years. We came into existence to essentially create a happier, healthier, more resilient world. I created this organization off the back of a first-hand experience I had with my own mental health, where I ended up having a breakdown, and the depths of which I got to the point where I didn't want to be here anymore. And I took action against that. And it was through my recovery from that experience I recognized I'd like to do something to help other people that might go through the same kind of thing. Um, and part of that was where we had the opportunity to take over the mantle of Stress Awareness Month, which is a campaign that's been running since 1992. For the last 20 years that we have been leading this campaign. And every year we're really grateful that we have the opportunity to reach literally tens of millions of people with this campaign. And this session today is very much part of our Stress Awareness Month activities. We're really grateful to have the opportunity to deliver a message every year to remind people and to reiterate the importance of recognizing stress and poor mental health, and to explore what action that we can take both individually and collectively to really start to address what is one of the biggest issues affecting modern society. In addition to all our charitable and non-commercial work, we have a research and consultancy arm where we get to work with some of the biggest companies on the planet, like Mars and Philips and many other organizations around sort of organizational culture. And ultimately, our overall vision is to create a happier, healthier, and more resilient world. And, for me, what I'm most grateful for is we have opportunities like this where hundreds of people turn up for our webinars, and we can really have conversations around things that are really important to us, and how, more importantly, we can turn awareness into action. And that's what today's session is about. It's about turning awareness into action. As ever, your support is always massively appreciated. We can only continue to do these sessions because of people's kind and generous support. So if you're able to, however much or little that you're able to provide to allow us to continue to do this work, you can take a picture of the QR code on the screen, and your donations allow us to continue to reach as many people as we possibly can. So in order to ensure you get maximum value from these sessions, for those of you who've attended our sessions before will know there's lots and lots of opportunities to be able to interact and get involved. We really do want to hear from you. This isn't a presentation. It's not Leah and myself talking at you or to you for the next hour. There is an opportunity for us to have a two-way dialogue. So we do really encourage you to put your cameras on if you can, so we can see each other. So we're in a room full of real human beings, not just the two faces that you can currently, or three faces now you can see on the screen. Thank you for those that you've just turned your cameras on. We're going to ask questions throughout the session. Please get involved. Jump on the microphone. Put your comments in the chat section. Leah will bring any of your comments in the chat section into the main discussion, but also you have the opportunity to share them yourself by unmuting yourself and coming onto your camera. If you do want to share something, just put your virtual hand up and we will come to you, and obviously you can share your points. There's lots of opportunities to participate, but this session only works if you get involved. So feel free to ask questions, share experiences, disagree, seek clarification, tell me to slow down, whatever you need over the next hour. Leah and myself are here to support you to the best of our ability. So also just a couple of ground rules. Just to ensure this is a safe space, we're going to encourage you to be as present as you can. This is not kind of a watch party. It's not something you watch in the background whilst you carry on doing whatever you're doing. Participate, do your 50%, be present, have an open mind to new ideas, new ways of doing things. If you are sharing things, please take ownership of your statements by using I statements rather than speaking on behalf of everyone. In my opinion, I believe, I feel. Openness, honesty, and respect. And with that, if somebody shares something you don't agree with or you don't like, that's okay. They're entitled to their opinion as you're entitled to yours. We ask for confidentiality. So anything that we discuss and share in this space, we ask that it stays safe and confidential in this space. The only caveats to that is if anyone mentions anything that impacts your safety or the safety of others, that's the only time confidentiality will be broken. And the second thing around confidentiality, anything that Leah and myself share, you have full permission to share that with anyone that is willing to listen. So you've got our permission to share it, or even the stories that we are going to offer during the course of this session. So The first thing I wanted to share is our resources page we have put together. Well, I can't take any credit for it. It was Leah and our colleague Ruth that spent a lot of time over the last couple of months creating a whole bunch of free resources. Leah, do you just want to talk about some of the things that people can find on the resources page?
Yeah, so there's a ton of resources. We've got things as simple as a kindness calendar to encourage everyone to do one act of kindness a day, whether it's towards someone else or yourself. We've got materials for workplaces, so certain challenges. We've got journal prompts, so there's a ton of different, and we've even got a meditation guide. So there's a ton of different resources for everyone to access.
Absolutely. Thank you, Leah. It's all absolutely free of charge. You just need to click the link that Leah's going to put in the chat in a second, and you'll be able to access all of the resources that have been made available for you. Um, I just want to get started by just essentially filling in the gap from the last session. How many of you were here for the last webinar last month? Let's have a show of hands. Okay, seems like some of you were. So you all remember, if you were here last month, we had a little bit of drama, unexpected drama, and we really had a lesson around leading with love at the last session. We are just going to play a little bit of a video, so if you had missed it, you'll be able to get a sense of what happened, and also how that experience really gave us an opportunity to practice what we preach and not just talk the talk, but also walk the walk. So I'm going to just play this video for you. It's very short, but it will just give you kind of a bit of a segue into today's discussion, but also for those of you who were here last time. So it just gives you a bit of a sense of what actually happened. Okay.
Neil, when you click on the text, does it go to the next page?
Yeah.
Oh, oh, we can hear it.
Oh, did that not work, Leah?
No, is it playing on your side?
It's just playing on my thing. Could you drop the link into the chat and then everyone can kind of watch it themselves? So what we're going to do, we're just going to drop the link for the YouTube into the chat. What I'm going to ask you to do is just click on the link, watch the video, and when you're back, just put your thumbs up so we know you've watched it. It's literally only a minute long. So Leia's just going to drop that link in to the chat, and then you'll all be able to access it.
I've popped it in the chat.
Wonderful. Excellent. So you just need to click on the link and watch the video at your leisure, or watch it now, and then we'll bring you back as soon as you're done. So enjoy.
Neil, you're on mute.
So, for those of you that were here last month, now you know what happened. That actually is what happened. So it was, yeah, as I think I can't remember a reader who said that, if it was Caroline, but it was both funny and scary at the same time. We didn't expect that, we didn't anticipate that, but actually, out of a lot of the situations we experience in life, it's the ones that we don't expect that can potentially be the most challenging. And that's where there is definitely an opportunity to lead with love, is to be able to show unconditional positive regard. And the irony that that was the topic of the last month's webinar. We're really grateful to our colleague Raquel, who is actually based in Mexico, that stepped in to be able to deliver the rest of that session. And you know, myself and the team here spent the time firstly in the muster point, and in the end we decided to just give up and go for a walk because we were locked out of the building for several hours whilst the police and the emergency services got to the bottom of the issue. So thank you for those of you that are patient. Chloe, thank you for being the star of the show. Your facial reactions basically summed up the experience for everybody. So we appreciate your facial expressions really adding to that video that we created. So, you know, leading with love is really, as I said, what the focus of the session was. How many of you can remember, if you were at the last session, or you know, may know from your own experiences, what leading with love is? What is leading with love? Give me an example of a concrete action or a moment where you were able to apply the ability to lead with love. Tell me what that is. And I'm going to actually start with you, Leah. So you were with me.
Yep.
How did we lead with love in that scenario? It would have been very easy to go into reaction, to panic, to anger.
So I think you kind of touched on it. The fact that the main thing that we did is we were all supporting each other. We all checked in on each other. There were multiple occasions where we said to each other, "Are you okay? How are you feeling?" etc. I think that was the first thing, that as well as looking after ourselves, we were looking out for each other. And I think it was kind of that sense of making the best out of a really bad situation. Like when we went on that walk, we tried to lead with love, and obviously not with everyone involved. You know, the police, they couldn't disclose much. With them, we approached it with love, compassion, empathy, because we understood that they couldn't really say much with the other people around us. So I think in the whole situation, at every stage, we tried our best to lead with love, and that's why the situation at the time wasn't as bad for us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Leah. And you're right. It would have been easy to get angry and frustrated with the police. And I remember my initial reaction. It's like we're in the middle of a webinar with 350 people on the session. We can't just leave. So it would have been easy to get angry and frustrated. And I appreciate, for those of you who are on the session, there were several of you encouraging us to go. And it's like, don't worry, just leave the thing. So actually, it was your encouragement that led for Leah and myself to leave. But yes, as I said, sometimes it's easy to hold someone responsible, to blame someone for what you're experiencing. So leading with love is, rather than looking for someone to be responsible, how can we approach this from a higher ground? Who else would like to share an example? I can see a few hands up. I'm not sure if you've got your hands up to respond or if you've just got your hands up already. But Katie, Rima, Audrey, you've got your hands up. Is there anything that you'd like to share, or if anyone else for that matter, around how you've been able to apply leading with love? Some concrete ideas or actions or moments where you've applied this approach. Go for it, Faye. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, I suppose I was in that session, which obviously we were encouraging you to leave. I work in part of a local authority in London, where we're working a lot with people who are wanting to learn things. And some people come, only the other day I had one guy who, I want to learn something. But then when you just let him speak and carry on his conversation, he was very much more, I just want to go somewhere where I'll meet other people. So although he led with, I want to learn something, that wasn't really what he wanted. So it's about, sometimes we have to let people let out what it is they want to say before we interact back. Because sometimes
Absolutely.
we can jump in too quick and we make assumptions. And that's something that I've learned over the years I've worked, that you can be it's so quick to think you know best. And sometimes we don't, do we?
Absolutely, Faye. And also, sometimes people just need to offload. They just need to be heard. They need a shoulder or an ear. And I know it can be easy to go into solutions and how do we fix this? They might not want a solution in that moment. They just might want to be heard. I remember in that moment, I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm quite frustrated. And you just want to kind of be heard and for someone to understand what you're going through rather than how to fix it, because there might not be an easy solution in that situation. So absolutely fair. That's a great example. Joanne, I see you've got your hand up. What would you like to share? Joanne Carter. No worries. We'll come back to you if you do have a point that you'd like to share. Leah, what have we got in the chat? Give me some examples of things that have come up in the chat.
Yeah, so someone said that positive regard is all about looking after yourself, not holding on to negative feelings against a personal situation. Someone said thanking people for making a complaint, as I cannot fix a problem I don't know about. Someone else said using a positive regard when working with clients in I've lost it, in mental health settings, accepting the person here and now, not judging them on the past behaviors, actions reported in case notes. Someone else said, oh, go ahead.
Okay.
I think there's a few people that are talking about also looking after yourself, meaning loving yourself, as well as to be able to share love to others. As a nurse working in mental health setting and in healthcare setting in general is very challenging and stressful. That is why it is very important to look after ourselves and when we are looking after other people.
Absolutely. You can only show love, compassion, empathy, and kindness to others to the extent that you're able to do so for yourself. I think this is a very, very crucial point. Because, if we spend a lot of time being angry, frustrated, overwhelmed, irritated with ourselves, then obviously that essentially will end up bleeding out to how we react and interact with others. So part of this is just for today, as I said, it's not just about raising awareness, it's how do we change things around us? How do we change the world? How could we collectively work together to create the world that John Lennon sung about in the song Imagine? It wasn't just a great song. I think there's a vision there of what potentially, if enough people bought into this and were willing to take action against it, is the kind of world that we could create. And for me, this comes down to the fact that action right now is more urgent required than ever before. The levels of polarity that we are experiencing in the world around us, that where people stand on different sides of the fence on so many different issues, whether that be religion or politics or the various conflicts and wars that happen around the world, or on societal issues or whatever, it's very easy to fuel the polarity with more profanity and more arguments and conflict, whereas actually the only way forward is to create unity and build that sense of community. So how can we do that? Well, firstly, as I said, that there are inevitably times where you're going to come across people that have different views and perspectives to you. There'd be times where people trigger you, upset you, make you angry, make you upset, make you sad, frustrated. So the exercise that I'd like us to do together is one that we planned to do last time, but we didn't really get into it, is for us to think of someone that is very easy to hate. If we think of a figure, maybe a historical figure that universally would be relatively easy to hate, 99.9% of people would agree that this is a very easy person to hate. Who would that be? Or what kind of person would that be? Anyone give me some examples of an easy to hate person? Yeah, so yeah, typically, universally, wherever you are in the world, Hitler tends to come up as a common person that is easy for many of us to hate, right? So, It's interesting. I've got a couple of Trumps in there. Trump is a polarizing character. So yeah, some people hate him, but some people love him. I think the vast majority of people would agree that Hitler is a very easy person to hate. So let's kind of stick with that because there is no polarity around that. There's very few people that I've ever come across that would, wouldn't find it easy to hate Adolf Hitler. Okay, so Adolf Hitler. If you hate Adolf Hitler, does he know? I can see a few heads shaking no, right? Obviously, he doesn't know because he's dead, right? So there's no way that he could know. If he was alive, from what we know about him, if he knew that you hated him, would he care? Again, I see a lot of shaking heads. No, right? So there has been some strong emotions created towards Adolf Hitler. The hatred that you have created, because you have created that hatred towards Adolf Hitler, who is the first person to experience that hatred?
Yourself.
Absolutely, right? You have created emotion. You are the first person to experience that. If you don't express it to that person, who is the source of your anger or hatred, who is the only person to experience it?
Yourself.
Yourself, absolutely. Now, it is amazing how many of us are creating strong emotions towards others or experiences outside of ourselves, but they are never expressed towards the person that is the source of that anger or hatred. Or if it is, that person doesn't care or is not bothered, right? So you have created a strong emotion and you are the first and possibly most likely the only victim of that strong emotion. Now, what I'm about to say is going to challenge and probably trigger the hell out of a lot of you, but just bear with me, just as a social experiment. If you had love towards Adolf Hitler, and some of you are literally choking at the thought of that, who would be the first person to experience that love?
Yourself.
Yourself, right? And obviously, if you told him that you loved him, do you think that he would care? Did he need your love or approval? No. So, whether he knew it or not, it's irrelevant. You are the first person to experience that love, right? So many of us are creating very strong emotions that we're putting out into the world. Oh, when we say putting out into the world, that we are experiencing because of things happening in the world around us, but we're the only victims of those strong emotions. Now, that sounds great as kind of a bit of an analogy, but most of you are like, well, practically speaking, that's not possible. There's no way to be able to express that. Let me give you some practical examples of people that have been able to display unconditional positive regard. Nelson Mandela. I'm sure it's a name that you've all come across. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. When he came out, did he seek revenge and retribution towards those that put him there? No, he sought peace and reconciliation, right? Would that not, and would he be justified in seeking revenge and retribution for having most of his life robbed of him and the suffering and subjugation of a lot of his fellow citizens? Would he be justified in his anger? Of course, but he didn't. He sought unconditional positive regard. He chose love, compassion, and empathy towards those that had caused his and his people suffering, right? Mahatma Gandhi. Obviously, with a lot of these historical figures, there are many different stories and versions of events. The commonly kind of accepted narrative around Mahatma Gandhi, did he seek violence and conflict against the occupiers of his country? He sought peacefully and non-violently protest against the occupation of India, right? Again, would that be another great example where anger potentially could be justified, right? Where it would be okay to be angry and hate the people that are doing that to you. but a path of love and compassion was sought. If the biblical stories have taught us anything, I'm not a religious person, but I like to read all the different scripts just for understanding humanity. And there's a story of Jesus on the cross being crucified. Does anyone know what he said to the Romans according to the scriptures? I'm not preaching by any means. It's just another example of unconditional positive regard. Any of you remember your religious studies classes at school? Yeah, absolutely. Somebody put in the chat, I forgive you, right? He's literally been put to death. And rather than showing anger and hatred towards those that are putting him to death, which would have been absolutely justified, by the way, he said, I forgive you. And I think some of you getting the exact quote, forgive them, they know not what they do. Okay, perfect. I knew it was something along the lines of I forgive you. The point is, in all of those situations, anger and hatred would have been seen as an appropriate response, but they chose a different path. Now, they are people just like we are. They were able to understand unconditional positive regard is not just for the benefit of the other. Who is the first beneficiary of finding love, compassion, empathy? You are. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. When we are talking about unconditional positive regard, we're not talking about something that's pink and fluffy. When we're not talking about kind of love in the way like romantic love, man, woman love, how you love your dog, we're talking about the big universal force that is more powerful than anything. And that's what we need more of in the world around us. And when we face challenge and conflict, how can we respond to that from a place where we are empowered? Amrish, I see you've got your hand up. Would you like to share something?
Yeah, you're probably coming on to that, but yeah, I just thought in case, how do you get yourself to do that? You know, if there's a lot of justified anger,
Of course.
you know, and if you you know, he said that he doesn't know what he's doing, but then those emotions are still there, those thoughts are still there. So how do you then make that shift in yourself? You know, I know
Absolutely,
that,
Amrish.
you know, I know there's the fact of you know, letting go of what you can't control, which is true, but how do you, you know, you're still human with thoughts and emotions.
Of course.
If
And
you can't
it's
find that silver line, I mean, is it silver lining? You say if you can't find that, if there's just no positives, it's just completely out of order, completely this, completely that. Um, you know you're harming yourself, but what do you do?
and it's a really, really, really interesting point, Amrish, and that's exactly what we're getting to, which is how can we lead with love when faced with conflict or stress or challenge or uncomfortable situations? You know, for example, at the moment, like I don't read the news, I don't read the newspapers, I don't watch television, but every so often I'm scrolling through social media, and you're kind of seeing pictures of like, you know, like burnt babies and buildings that have been destroyed and people being blown up in their refugee camps in Gaza, and it's tough to see that. It would be easy to ignore that is happening, but it's not easy to ignore that those things are happening in the world around us. And I appreciate there's many different perspectives on this, but ultimately, like, let's not forget the human suffering. But how can we find a place where we are not feeling anger and hatred towards those that might be responsible for the death and destruction of innocent people? How do we do that? And it's not an easy one. If there are things happening in your community, you know, what's the most watched show on Netflix at the moment? It's the Adolescence. It's about this 13-year-old boy that I'm not ruining the plot for those that haven't seen it. I do encourage you to watch it because it's a really good insight into where we are now in terms of society. But it's a 13-year-old boy that basically kills a 13-year-old girl, and it's horrific. It would be very easy to be angry at the young boy, and it would be justified to do so. But I think by the time I got through to the end of that, I realized there were two victims in that scenario. And I know it's hard to look at someone that has done horrible things as a victim, but again, it was allowing me to be able to step out and look at things objectively rather than subjectively. And yeah, Lisa, as you said, that both the little boy and the little girl were victims in that scenario. As much as one of them sadly killed the other, they were, if you look at it objectively, both victims in that scenario. So I really want to open this up because this is a really, really important point. When you are faced by things that make you angry, that trigger you, and your anger is justified because there are such injustices happening in the world today. Once we step into kind of that strong emotional reaction, how does that remove our power and our ability to be able to create peace and harmony? This is one of the things that, one of Gandhi's quotes, you can't fight fire with fire, right? The other one, which is an eye for an eye, only makes the whole world blind. Like, yes, I know that sometimes we want to fight for change. Even those that say things like, I am fighting for peace, you can't. You can't fight for peace because you're literally creating more conflict by fighting for it. You can love for peace. If someone says to me, I'm loving for peace, it's like, all right, you have my attention. If you're fighting for peace, you are literally creating more conflict. So let's get some thoughts on this. Jocelyn, you've got your hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, regarding forgiveness, I found that a bit of a hard one to crunch until I realised that, it doesn't mean to forgive someone doesn't mean to say that you're condoning whatever that action is or that behaviour or whatever. Once you realise that, it's easier to release, and it's the weirdest thing, things start to flow from that. Once you do that, say, well, I don't condone what you're doing, but I do forgive you. And there's the neuro-linguistic programming point of view that says that everybody is doing the very best they can with what they got at any one time. So that can also stimulate our compassion, and then sort of trying to, well, whatever's going on for them, I hope they find help or get the help they need to get sorted or what have you. And sometimes just I've personally got out of sort of asking, what's the lesson for me to learn out of this? How, that has helped,
Yeah, and again, it's stepping out from going into a place of judgment about a person or an experience. We don't know what's going on for people that has led them to behave that way. And as we said at the beginning, sometimes people, because they're in a tough place themselves, as Faye was expressing, how they're showing up potentially is a reaction to whatever they're experiencing. If we're reacting to their reaction, I think it was Jen that you mentioned Batari's box. It's something we use in our training as well. If I show up to this session and I've just really had a tough conversation with one of my colleagues and I'm really annoyed and irritated, and I turn up this session, I'm really annoyed and irritated, and I'm going to start turning up in this session and be really annoyed and irritated with you as well, and I start like spitting and effing and blinding and showing up in a place of anger. So essentially my attitude, because of what happened outside of this session, has affected my behavior. Would you agree with that? So something's triggered me and that's affected how I showed up in the world. You've now spent an hour with an angry bloke that's kind of effing and blinding and screaming and showing anger or frustration, not necessarily towards you, but you are being impacted by how I show up. Would you agree with that, right? Do we then see that my attitude, which affected my behavior will start to affect your attitude, right? If you're around someone that's particularly negative, angry, frustrated, and they're offloading to you, would you agree that eventually that's going to start having an effect on your attitude? Yeah? So there's a few heads nodding there. You then go into your meeting after this one. You've got a meeting scheduled at 2:15. You finish this session. You go into that meeting. Your attitude is significantly lower and worse than it was before you started this meeting. How do you think you're then going to show up in the meeting that you go to after this one?
Yeah, you take it with you sometimes, unless you're able to park it.
Of
you know,
course.
stunned under that shower of, right, okay, all of that goes down the plug hole. I'll step into this new situation refreshed.
Absolutely. If you're able to kind of cut the energy, great, you break the cycle. But if you don't break the cycle, your attitude will then affect your behavior, which then means that you go into the next meeting and what you've experienced as a result of someone else, you're then passing it on to someone else, right? Now, let's say we had a catch up later this afternoon. So we've had this session. In between then, I've done that, Jocelyn. I've kind of stood under the shower. I've gone for a walk. I've got some fresh air. I'm feeling great now. But you're still carrying the negative energy that I passed on to you, that you then passed on to other people. We then meet up this afternoon at 5 o'clock. And I'm now great, but because you're in a negative attitude and your behavior has been compromised by that, you come back in and now you're effing and blinding and spitting at me and upset with me.
I'm
And I'm
going to
like,
kick the
whoa.
cat.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, it comes full cycle, and this is what happens. But we're seeing this happening across society. Does that make sense? That we're constantly feeding the negativity, and we're finding a cycle of constant conflict and retaliation. Julie, go for it. You've got your hand up. What would you like to share? Oh, you're on mute, Julie. We can't hear you. Still on mute.
Okay, is that booking now? Sorry, took me a while to find it. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah,
no, because we're always in I think, an on society. Perhaps what we could explore in leading with love is holding space whenever we have a contact with teams, with people at home, just to give us the moment to check in with ourselves. So, do we need to teach ourselves to slow down, to say, to do that check-in? What am I bringing into the room today, and is it going to serve the best purpose for wherever I am? You know, if I'm bringing home from work a ton of rubbish with me, how's that's going to affect the people around me? What can I do? So building in small daily micro habits to just have that moment of time of pause. I think we don't take enough time to do that, is to stop and have that somatic experience with ourselves of what's going on, and then to use some technique, whether it's breathing, walking, just to work that through. And especially in meetings, we run from one meeting to the other, but we give no people the time at the end of the meeting to actually how do you inbeeld in Dutch, you to absorb the information, and they're on to the next, and you have this overwhelm because we're not allowing time.
Absolutely. And Julie, that for me is the key point. How do we break the chain? Because many of us become part of the chain because we're passing it on. We're becoming part of the problem because we don't know how to break the chain. And for me, this is really important that we kind of consider how can we collectively start breaking the chain. Laura, I've just been reading your comment. Would you be willing to explore this? Like, you know, particularly if you've kind of having this experience where you turn on television, you know, the news is creating anxiety, that you don't get sucked into that. Is that something you'd be willing to explore?
Sure, absolutely.
And I appreciate that it's challenging. I know, obviously, particularly with some of the things that are going on in the States, there is a lot of polarity. There is a lot of conflict. There's a lot of kind of people seeing things from different perspectives. And rather than coming together, we're turning on each other. How is this affecting you?
Well, it's awful. I want to delete everything, but because of my work, I need to know what's going on. I work in a protection type atmosphere. So anyway, I need to know what is being said. And I mean, yeah, like I have a dog Instagram account. So my 3-legged dog is any of their doggy friends, any of his 4,000 friends who talk politics, boom, they're out, because it's my doggy page and I do one post a day and that's my sanctuary. But it's difficult because you have one side saying silence is complacency and you're contributing, and it just makes your head want to explode every single day. It's nonstop, and it will be like this for 4 years.
Of course. And, you know, it's not just the US or in a particular political situation. This is on any number of issues. you know, that whether you're talking about Ukraine or Gaza or politics in the UK or politics in Europe or economic situations, there's always going to be two sides of the conversation. For me, this is where we can break the cycle. Rather than standing for either side, why not stand for the side of unity, where it's like, how can we bring people together? And as you do it, like if you want to get involved in polarity, this is a space for unity, where we can all agree that we love dogs, right? We have something in common. Because as human beings, we have more in common than we have things that separate us. Yet we tend to focus on the things that separate us more than the things that unite us. And whether we wear a different color tie, vote for a different political party, eat different foods, read a different book, pray to a different God, we've got so much in common. And for me, unconditional positive regard, leading with love, is finding unity, not polarity. And I know, obviously, you know, you're being in kind of the field that you're in, law enforcement, that you do need to know what's going on in the world. But is there a way to limit the amount of information you're exposing that's creating kind of that anxiety response? I don't know if that's possible, but I know for me, when I stopped reading the news and you know, stopped watching kind of news program on TV, it changed because there's less information being poured on me.
Yeah, and I think the minute by minute is what is so stressful, that, you know, getting a broad, what I've tried to do is when I go into work, I have a long commute. When I go into work, I listen to news because I need to know. I'm in a political, actually very political atmosphere, but and then coming home, I only do podcasts or books. So I have a separation space between when I get in my house, and my husband and I actually don't ever talk about politics. We haven't for 12 years and we never will. So that's nice as well. But yeah, I think that's good. And if people I work with get worked up, sometimes they have news stations on and I just walk out. So I think that is my loving nature, is just leaving.
And Laura, you've kind of given me a really beautiful segue into the next point. Is sometimes rather than trying to fix or solve a situation and give someone the solution, it's just by asking the question. And just as I'm going to encourage you all to do with everyone that you come across that's going through a tough time, Laura, I say to you, how can I best support you?
Sorry, I'm reading the comments. Is that a genuine question to me?
It
Or
is a
that
genuine
I should
question.
throw out?
And also, as one of our mental health champions, you'll know that this is underpinned with, you know, building those bridges and creating space for people. And this is one way we can lead with love, is rather than trying to fix someone, just listen. So how could I best support you, Laura?
By continuing to offer trainings like this. I was on my way into work, and I'm like, you know what, guys, I'm coming in later because I want to be there and I want to be present for this, and I want to watch it because it puts me in a good frame of mind, which then I can lead them in a better frame of mind.
Absolutely. So part of this is, if you take nothing else away from this session, the one question I encourage you all to ask of those around you is, what do you need? How can I best support you? Don't offer solutions. Don't try and fix things. Just listen and offer a shoulder and an ear. And Laura, obviously, it's a good reminder for you as one of our amazing team of global mental health champions.
Thank you.
And, you know, part of this is like, yes, the world is stressful, is challenging, but stress is not good or bad. There are many situations where it's appropriate to be stressed. I can tell you firsthand, when we had the police turn up last month and we all got very, very stressed, it was appropriate, because if we weren't stressed, we would have just sat there looking at each other and laughing. The stress ensured that we removed ourselves from the building as quickly as possible and we took appropriate action. But the challenge is, most of us are getting stressed because of information, and there is nothing to fight. There's nothing to run away from. So many of us go into the third state, which is known as freeze, which is, I have to be honest, and the video proves it, that initially I did go into freeze. Like, I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to carry on talking and run the webinar, even though there's like police swarm in the building and there's a SWAT team outside. I did not react. I didn't go into fight or flight. I just like was frozen and just carried on doing what I was doing because my brain couldn't engage what was happening. So bear in mind that when people are stressed and they're overwhelmed, they've gone into reaction mode. They've gone into survival mode. And actually meeting that with more stress is only going to amplify the situation. Does that make sense? So where we can start to diffuse the situation is by reaching out and offering love, compassion, empathy, and kindness. And that is the counter to someone that is experiencing fight or flight. And what I wanted to do is to understand, well, actually, how can we show ourselves love, kindness, compassion, and empathy? How can we ensure that we're able to break that cycle? And, you know, as Jocelyn was saying, it's like that kind of the proverbial shower to wash the stress off. Well, firstly, how many of you have animals? How many of you have a dog or a cat? How many of you have seen an animal, even a duck in the park? When an animal has had an experience of stress, what do they do as soon as the stress is finished? Wonderfully demonstrated there by Julie. Shake it off, right? Literally shake it off. Before they go to sleep, Chloe, you'll see animals will normally have a shake, and that's literally that's them shaking off the stress. It's a response that they have. That it's like, I've had stress, and I'm literally letting it go. And one of the things that we can do is when you've got that strong response is literally shake it out of the system. And, you know, it's already been mentioned around somatic work is like connecting with your body. Where do you feel that strong emotion in your body? You might feel it in your head. You might feel it in your chest. You might feel it in your gut. And just connecting with that and just like find a way to be able to release that. And one way is with shaking. Now, I know it's like, you know, we're talking about leading with love and compassion and empathy, but actually the first thing you need to do is physically take yourself out of the state that you're in so you can respond with love, compassion, empathy. Does that make sense? There are two ways to be able to do that. Is literally change what's going on in your body. And part of that is moving your body. What is another way to very quickly and rapidly change your state? Be a very simple, easy way. Breathing, absolutely. Now, breathing isn't just a great way to change your state. It's also really important to stay alive. So please, all of you, continue breathing. Do a lot of breathing every day because it's really beautiful. And Caroline, maybe a little bit of wine in there as well. So what I am going to do is I'm going to demonstrate a very simple exercise. It's only going to take a couple of minutes, not even, less than a minute, that involves a bit of movement and using your breath in a very particular way, which not only changes what's going on in your body, but it changes your mental and emotional state. This is a way of showing yourself love, kindness, and compassion. If you've had that kind of tough moment where something's affected your attitude and it's affecting how you're showing up in the world, and you don't have the ability to have the walk or the shower or whatever else that you normally do, this is something you can do literally like in 30 seconds and it will completely change how you're feeling. This is an actual experiment. So don't just take my word for it. I'm going to encourage you to practice. So I'm going to just talk it through and then we'll practice together. And for me, this is a really beautiful practice of unconditional positive regard. Not only is it showing yourself love, compassion, empathy by giving yourself a moment, but it will then change how you show up in the world. Because when you feel better, you show up better in the world. So if you'd like to try, don't do anything just yet. Let me just demonstrate. We're going to be using our hands to help us to breathe. This exercise is called bellows breath. I think there is a yogic term for it, which is analoma viloma or something like that. That's the Sanskrit yogic name for it. It's actually drawn from an activity in yoga. And I'll stand up so you can see. So essentially, we're going to be using let's just step down a little bit. We're using our hands like the bellows. You know, in the olden days, they used to use the bellows to fan the fires with. And Rima, if you're in the middle of the office, show everyone what you're doing. Let them get involved. But also, you can always come back to this later if you're not able to practice. Rima, Olivia, this is a great way to lead from the front. It's like show people what you're doing and tell them about it. But also, if you can't do the hand movements, just do the breath. You'll still get some benefit, right? So what we're going to do, when we exhale, we have our hands reaching out towards the sky. When we inhale, and when we exhale, we pull our elbows to our ribs like so. We're going to do literally 25 breaths like that. So breath in and exhale, pull the elbows to the ribs. Okay, if you like to do this, we're going to do this as a social experiment. We're doing this together. Before you start, just survey your landscape. Look around you, colors, contours, shapes. Be aware of how you feel in your body. Be aware of any sounds that you hear. Be aware of any comfort or discomfort in your body. Look around at the faces of the colleagues that you can see on screen. For those of you that are a little bit self-conscious about being seen doing this, just do the breathing. So rather than doing the hands, breathe in, breathe out, and just imagine in your head that you're pumping your hands, right? So that way no one needs to know what you're doing. You'll just be taking some deep breaths. You'll still get the benefit, maybe not quite as much, but you'll get some benefit. For those of you willing to do this, let's do this together. So let's see you all with your hands up. Exhale, pulling the elbows into the ribs. And 24 more times. 5. 10. 25 more. Okay, shake it out. Okay, 25 breaths. Less than 30 seconds of your life. What's changed? What's different? What do you notice? What are you aware of? Firstly, how many of you are feeling a little bit more energized? If you're feeling dizzy, so a couple of you saying dizzy, you've just had a rush of oxygenated blood up to your head. So Jen, Alistair, a couple of you that felt, Julie, feeling a little bit lightheaded, just take a couple of slow, deep breaths. As your breathing regulates, you're going to start feeling better. The dizziness is literally because it's known as a head rush. You've had a rush of oxygenated blood up to your brain because you're using your hand like a pump. Your brain's like, oh my God, all this extra oxygen. I'm not used to that. When that settles, you're going to start feeling awake, tingly, more positive, like smile. What else have we got? Leah, there's loads of things coming up in the chat. Other than dizzy, what else is people experiencing?
Tingly, warm, more positive. Someone said that they've got a smile on their face. Well, there's quite a few people that have said smiley, feel good, feel relief, relaxed, energized.
Amazing. Oh, I love that, Maggie. Your head is buzzing, feeling relaxed. Listen, you did that yourself. No pills, no potions, no special equipment. Didn't cost you a penny. But as you broke the state, as you change your state, do you agree if you're feeling happier, lighter, more relaxed, more positive, you are going to show up in the world in a different way. You're going to find it easier to show love, compassion, and empathy and show kindness to those around you. And this, my friends, is how we change the world, by changing ourselves. I can't remember who gave the quote, but if you view the world as a bad, dangerous, awful place, you are right. If you view the world as a place filled with love, joy, wonder, excitement, compassion, and empathy, you are also right. Because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We find what we seek. And when we change who we are and how we show up, we find different things in the world around us. There are as many, if not more, examples every single day of human kindness, innovation, compassion, and empathy as there are of death, disease, devastation, and destruction. We just tend to hear about the bad things more. Does that make sense? And how we lead with love is we become examples of how things can be different. You make a difference in the world by being a different person. And my deepest desire, if every single one of us can show up by extending more love, compassion, empathy to those around us. So I'm grateful that you participated in that. If you didn't get to practice, hopefully you will do so later. And, you know, part of this is also being able to create better boundaries for ourselves as well. Set compassionate boundaries, check in with yourself regularly, and give yourself whatever you need in the moment, whether that's a breath, a break, some water, a walk. But just ensure that you give yourself that time, because we do find ourselves in a world where the world will take from you and drain your energy. And if you constantly give without replenishing yourself, you will run out eventually. So please ensure that you fill up your cups. And also how you can protect yourself when you're in environments and situations where there could be things or experiences that drain your energy. So do all your energy. What do you have the time for? What do you have the energy for? Is what you're doing aligned? Okay, so As I said, today's about taking action. What are you going to do? There are some examples here. We will share these slides with you as well. And there's lots more resources that we will have available for you to ensure that you can start taking action to create the world that we all want to be a part of. So have a look on the website for the free resources. We will put the recording of this session as well as the slides up on our website, and also will be emailed to you tomorrow if you get our newsletter. We do also have a people culture wellbeing forum for those of you that are interested in creating a better working environment in your companies. So we'll send information on how you can sign up for that. You can get our free newsletter, which is where you'll find information about all the future sessions and all the different programs that we have available. And we also have our mental health champions. Grateful we've got a few champions on the call today, like Laura, for example, and various others. The next one is coming up in a few weeks' time. And because it's Stress Awareness Month, we have our lowest price that we've ever done it for, which is just £222. We'll send information on this as part of the follow-up email, which will come out to you tomorrow. We also have our online learning platform. Again, information on that will be with you soon. If you like this session, please leave us a review. We do this because of the love and appreciation that we get, and we are only able to do this because of the donations and the support that we receive. And if there's anything else that you need, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. If you do feel that you need support urgently, there is some resources available, and please find what resources are available in your local communities. Next month's webinar will be on Mental Health Awareness Week, which is about the power and benefit of movement. So please sign up early for that so you can ensure you have your space. And just before we finish, if anyone has any questions, comments, or feedback, this would be a great opportunity to share. And also, Leah will put in a feedback link as well for those that would like to share your comments. Amrish and Faye, Faye, you've got your hand up. Did you have a question, comment, or something you'd like to share before we close?
I wanted to ask your opinion on this. So, you know, when thinking about, you know, and it helps with stress and you know, different things as well, is that you know, so negativity, etc. in the world, that, you know, thinking along the lines of, you know, no child, you know, if you take it to the roots of, you know, mankind, you know, no child is born nasty, and, you know, these sorts of things. I think what happens is the vast majority is, you know, society, you know, who they've, you know, interacted with, their upbringing, etc., and then a small part the genes. And so, you know, to think, okay, the thing comes comes that, you know, choice there, that you know, you you know, even at the times when you feel that you know, choice is tiny, you do always have a choice, but not everybody, you know, is self-aware, etc., enough about that, you know enough about themselves, etc., you know. And so, and also, it's not as easy as that always either. How does that, what do you think of that, you know, just to put the context that, you know, to help that attitude of compassion, etc., to be more you know, in your daily interactions and what have you? How does that what do you
Absolutely. I
think of
think
that?
the core of the question is nature versus nurture. Are we born bad, or are people inherently bad, or is this something that we develop through our life experiences? And I think as we start to, number one, have better role models around us, and also we're able to have environments where we are nurturing the kind of behaviors we want to see in the world around us, that I think that's where things start to positively change. And we do have lots of role models that are role modeling poor behaviors, and we have lots of role models that are modeling positive behaviors. And I think this is where we all get to be a part of that positive change. And in my belief, I'm not saying I'm 100% correct, I don't think there's any such thing as a bad person or a bad animal, for example. Like I'm a huge dog lover. I don't think dogs are born as like vicious killers. Like depending on their nurturing and their environment and the way that they are treated, can become vicious, but they can also become wonderfully loving pets. And it's the same with people. If people have their core needs met, are they going to resort to kind of behaviors that are socially unacceptable or dangerous or damaging to society? What I do every day is because I believe that there is a better way, and hopefully we can inspire and empower enough people to start a positive ripple of change. So I think that for me is the crucial point. But good question. Thank you, Amrish.
How much would you say is genetics versus the environment shaping the person, upbringing and what have you? How much would you say is genes?
It's not something that I think that we're going to be able to resolve here in a short period of time.
Yeah.
It's a very complex kind of a conversation. There's the field of genetics, epigenetics, and various other factors. But I think really, like, rather than going into what percentages, etc., it's more focusing on what can I do, what power do I have, rather than looking at, well, like, it's inevitable, it's going to be like this. Well, at the moment you say that, then you have no power. If we say that actually we can do something and we can create change, then we've not kind of blamed it on genetics or whatever. I'm not saying that's not a contributing factor, but at least then we can control, we can take responsibility of the things that we have control over. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
Amrish. Ronald, I see you've got your hand up.
Thank you so much for this insightful session. It was worthy joining today, and I would like to really appreciate the presenters and the information that are given to us. One question is that at times we may have something that normally distresses us, but we find it hard to mention it out. So maybe you can guide us on which is the proper way in which we can be able to treat ourselves in our own private levels before we can be able to escalate further to other quarters, or maybe to get help from somewhere else, especially if it's something that is confidential. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronald. It's a good question. Remember the question I was exploring with Laura is, what do you need? How can I support you? It's really powerful to ask that to someone else, but it's even more powerful to ask that to yourself by checking in with yourself and saying, this would be a conversation Ronald is having with Ronald. Ronald, what do you need? How can I support you? How can you show up for yourself? And by actually taking the time just to sit with yourself for a few moments and figure out, what is it that I need in this moment? How can I best support myself? Hopefully will at least start showing you potential options that you have to be able to address whatever it is you're experiencing. Does that help as a starting point? Excellent. Well, thank you, Ronald, for your question. Any other final questions, comments, or feedback? I can see some of you asking permission to leave. If you need to go, absolutely, we're over time. So thank you so much for joining, Olivia, and anyone else that does need to join, Emily, as well. But if there's anyone else that's got any final questions, comments, feedback, we're more than happy to hang out for a couple of minutes to answer any further questions. Well, once again, thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate your presence. We can only do this because you keep showing up. And we love the fact that there's always a few hundred people that show up for all of these calls. We're wishing you a really beautiful rest of the month. Keep spreading the kindness. Keep building this tidal wave of love, compassion, and empathy that we started with Stress Awareness Month this year. And we're very much looking forward to seeing you in May. Much love, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.